All right, so we're diving into the 2000 How the Grinch Stole Christmas movie today. And wow, you've given us a lot of material to look at here, reviews and box office stuff, and even some interesting commentary. It seems like you're really interested in how this film took this classic children's book and just made it into something kind of different.
Yeah, it really is interesting. It seems like people either really loved what they did or absolutely hated it. So the people thought it was too different from the original. So we'll definitely be talking about all those opinions today.
Okay, cool. So how about we start with something that always seems to come up. When people talk about this movie and that's how it looks, I mean, Whoville is just so crazy and whimsical. It's not just like a place in the movie. It's practically like another character.
Oh, for sure. A lot of people even said it felt like a cartoon come to life.
Yeah.
Like they really tried to bring Dr. Seuss's drawings to life. It's almost like you're walking right into one of his books with those crazy sets and costumes, and even the Who's themselves looked like they came right out of one of his drawings.
Yeah. And it wasn't just audiences who liked how it looked. The film actually won an Oscar for Best Makeup and was even nominated for Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clearly they went all out to make that whimsical world.
And speaking of over the top, we can't forget about Jim Carrey as the Grinch. Even in the reviews that really hated the movie, they almost always still talked about Jim Carrey's performance.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of them even said that he was like born to play this role. His energy and physical comedy are just perfect for it, and you can tell he's having fun.
Yeah, but this is also where people start to disagree. Some people loved his crazy portrayal and thought it fit the Grinch perfectly, but others thought it was way too much.
Yeah, I can see that. It really brings up an interesting point about making movies from books. When you have a character like the Grinch that everyone knows, how do you stay true to the original but also bring something new to it?
Exactly. It's a tricky thing to do, and this film definitely did some bold things, like adding a backstory for the Grinch, which wasn't in the book at all.
Right, you see him as a kid and all the bad stuff that happened to him.
Yeah, he gets bullied by the other Who's, and they even make fun of how he looks.
And he has a crush on Martha May Whovier.
Oh, right. And they end up humiliating him in front of everyone.
Exactly. And backstory tries to explain why he hates Christmas so much.
And that's what makes it so interesting to talk about. Some reviewers thought it was really clever to give him a backstory and make him seem more human and even a little bit tragic.
Yeah, like maybe we can kind of understand him a little better now.
Exactly. But then some people felt it was totally unnecessary and took away from how simple the original story was.
Like maybe his reasons for being mean don't really matter. The point is that he changes in the end and learns about the true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah, they argued it wasn't about trying to understand why he's a villain.
That's a good point.
And those different opinions really show what makes this movie so interesting to analyze. Was it a good adaptation? Did it make the story better or just water it down? These are the questions we'll keep exploring as we go deeper into the details.
Okay, so we've talked about how it looks and Jim Carrey's performance. But what about how people actually felt about the movie overall? It has a 6.4 out of 10 rating on IMDb, which means that it's kind of in the middle. It's not universally loved or hated. What were some of the other things that reviewers praised or criticized?
Well, a lot of them really like how entertaining the movie was. They thought it was visually amazing and often really funny, and that it was something both kids and adults could enjoy. They appreciated all the energy and humor and how it really captured Dr. Seuss's world.
Right. But those who weren't as impressed often said that the movie was too long, like it just dragged on and on.
Yeah, and some felt like the humor was too childish or even a little bit crude for a family movie.
And as we discussed, those changes from the original story were a big problem for some people.
Yeah, and it's interesting, even in the negative reviews, they still often acknowledged how much effort went into creating the movie.
Yeah.
It seems like they respected the skill, but questioned whether it was used in the right way.
It's like they saw all the work that went into it, but then they didn't like the final product.
Exactly.
Which kind of makes me think of something you said earlier about how some reviewers found a darker side to the movie. For a Christmas movie, it's not all happy and cheerful, is it?
Oh, not at all. And that's where the whole consumerism critique comes in. The Who's are all happy and cheerful, but they're kind of obsessed with presents and stuff. Like, their Christmas spirit feels empty. Like it's all about the things they have instead of actually connecting with each other.
And some reviewers saw that as like a hidden message about how Christmas has become too commercialized.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what we really care about during the holidays, right? Is it the gifts and the decorations and all the fancy food? Or is there something more meaningful behind it all?
And then there's Cindy Lou Who. The film gives her a much bigger part than she had in the book.
Right.
It's not just about her seeing the Grinch stealing everything. She's really curious about him, and she questions what Christmas is really all about.
Yeah, she's like this innocent and sincere character that's missing from the rest of Whoville. All the adults are caught up in the craziness.
Yeah.
But she's looking for something deeper, like a real understanding of what Christmas means.
It's like she represents the wonder that kids have, which kind of gets lost when you grow up. And she ends up playing a big part in helping the Grinch change, doesn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Her kindness and genuine interest in him touch him in a way that all the forced happiness from the other Whos couldn't. It suggests that really connecting with someone and understanding them is way more powerful than just putting on a show of celebration.
Makes me wonder, did any reviewers think that giving Cindy Lou a bigger role took away from the Grinch's story? The book is all about his transformation, but the film gives Cindy Lou a more active part.
That's an interesting point. It's a hard balance to find when you're adapting something. If you add in new characters or stories, you might mess up the original story. But you also have the chance to explore new themes and ideas.
And in this case, it seems like they couldn't really talk about consumerism and the meaning of Christmas without giving Cindy Lou a bigger part.
Right, she adds another layer to the film's message. It's not just about the Grinch changing, but also about the Whos remembering what Christmas is really about.
Okay, so we talked about all those deeper themes, but what about how they actually pulled it off? We mentioned the humor earlier and how some reviewers thought it was a little much.
Yeah, there are definitely mixed feelings about that. Some people thought it was too childish and even kind of gross sometimes. They said it was too different from the charming and whimsical style of the original story. Like it relied too much on slapstick and silly stuff.
But then you have Jim Carrey, who's known for being really over the top. He really goes all out with the Grinch's mischievous and chaotic personality, even if it means pushing the boundaries of what's considered appropriate.
I guess it really depends on what kind of humor you like. If you're not a fan of Jim Carrey's style, then this movie probably isn't for you.
I'm also curious about something that came up in a few of the reviews. The colors in the movie. You'd think a Christmas movie would be all bright and cheery, but some reviewers said that the colors were actually kind of dark and unsettling.
Yeah, it is a strange choice, isn't it? Whoville is whimsical, but it also feels kind of artificial, like there's something a little bit creepy underneath the surface.
Maybe that's part of the reason people have such mixed feelings about the movie. It's not your typical feel-good holiday movie. It has an edge to it, and it's not afraid to explore some of the darker parts of the holidays.
And that could be what makes it so interesting. It challenges what we expect from a Christmas movie.
Speaking of challenging expectations, let's go back to that idea that the movie is anti-capitalist. What are some things in the movie that support that idea?
Well, like we said before, the Whos are really obsessed with presence and status. There are scenes where you see just how much they buy and consume, like mountains of presents and having to have the newest and best decorations.
It's almost like they're making fun of how crazy we get about buying stuff during the holidays.
Exactly. You can see how fake their smiles are. Like they've forgotten what Christmas is really all about.
And then you have the Grinch, who's totally against Christmas in the beginning, and he tries to ruin their fun by stealing all their stuff.
Right, like he's trying to take away their happiness by taking away their things.
But in the end, it's not losing their stuff that makes them change. It's realizing that they care too much about material things, that all the buying and shopping has overshadowed the real meaning of Christmas.
And that message is still relevant today. It makes us think about our own holiday traditions. And if we've fallen into that same trap of valuing things more than spending time with people and having shared experiences.
It's a powerful message, even though it comes in a funny and lighthearted package.
It shows how even a movie based on a kid's book can make us think about important things.
Now, before we finish talking about the themes and how people reacted to the movie, I have to share some fun facts about how the movie was made. Did you know that the director, Ron Howard, actually appears in the movie?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Seems like a lot of directors like to sneak themselves into their own movies. What part does he play?
He plays the Whoville historian, the one who narrates the beginning of the movie. You might miss him if you're not looking carefully, but it's a fun little detail.
I have to keep an eye out for that next time I watch it. And speaking of family, I read that Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, is also in the movie.
Oh yeah, she plays one of the Who girls who makes fun of the Grinch when he's a kid. It's cool to see her in one of her early roles, knowing how successful she's become.
Seems like the Howards like to work together. But you know, speaking of interesting casting choices, I found another fun fact when I was researching this. You mentioned earlier that some people thought Jim Carrey was a bit over the top. Well, it turns out that wasn't all just acting. He actually went through some pretty intense training to get ready for the role.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. It was kind of unexpected for a comedic role like this. What did he do?
He worked with a CIA agent to learn how to handle torture.
Oh, really?
It sounds crazy, right? But apparently it was to help him deal with how uncomfortable it was to wear the Grinch suit for so long.
Wow, that's dedication. I love these behind-the-scenes stories. They add so much to the movie. Knowing how much work Jim Carrey put into playing the character makes those funny moments even funnier.
It definitely shows how dedicated he is to his craft. It makes you appreciate all the work that goes into making even the silliest and most fantastical movies.
It reminds us that filmmaking, even when it's about a green, furry grump who tries to steal Christmas, is serious business.
Well, maybe not always serious. Didn't we hear that Jim Carrey did an impression of Ron Howard directing and that they kept it in the movie?
Oh, yeah. I love that Ron Howard was cool with it and didn't cut it out. It adds a level of self-awareness and humor that you don't always see in big movies like this.
Makes you wonder what other funny moments they might have kept in the movie.
Now that's something I'll be looking for when I watch it again. Speaking of things to think about, so we've talked about a lot, how it looks, Jim Carrey's performance, all the darker stuff, and how people felt about it. But now that we're at the end of our deep dive, it seems like there's a bigger question here. What does this version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas actually tell us about ourselves? About how we see this holiday, and even how we feel about stories in general.
Yeah, that's a good question. And looking at all your sources, it's clear there's no simple answer. Some people just saw it as a fun Christmas movie with a nice message, even if it wasn't perfect. They liked the visuals and how it brought Dr. Seuss's world to life.
But for other people, those changes were the problem. They thought the movie lost the simple message of the book.
Yeah.
The added backstory, all the focus on consumerism, even how Jim Carrey acted, it all felt different from the story they remembered.
And that difference between staying true to the original and creating something new is really interesting. Is a good adaptation one that follows the book exactly, or one that uses the original story as a starting point for something different? This movie definitely leans towards the second one, and that's what caused so much debate.
And then there's the whole anti-capitalist interpretation, which adds a whole other level to it. It's not just about whether we like the choices they made, but what those choices say about our culture.
Right, like the Who's with their crazy decorations and obsession with presents become a symbol of how much we buy during the holidays. And the movie shows us how empty that kind of materialism can be.
So it's not just retelling the Grinch's story, it's also making us think about our own relationship with Christmas. Are we getting caught up in all the hype? Have we forgotten what Christmas is really about because we're so busy shopping?
And those questions are even more relevant now than they were back then, I think. We're constantly told what Christmas should be and what we need to buy to make it perfect. This film, whether it meant to or not, challenges those ideas.
It makes us think about what really matters during the holidays. Is it the presents under the tree or the time we spend with people we care about?
And maybe that's why people still talk about this movie, even though they don't all agree on it. It makes us think, challenges what we believe, and maybe even makes us look at ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. It's like the Grinch with his grumpy attitude makes us see the not-so-perfect parts of Christmas.
And by doing that, it creates space for a more real and meaningful experience.
Yeah.
Like Cindy Lou Who, we can find that childlike wonder again amidst all the craziness.
Okay, so after talking about all this, where do we end up? Is this a good adaptation? A bad one? Is it a flawed masterpiece, a misunderstood gem, or just a cash grab using a popular story?
I don't think there's one right answer. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not about deciding whether it's good or bad. It's about thinking about all the different ways to see it, the conversations it started, and how it still connects with people today.
Yeah, and maybe that's the biggest thing we can take away from all this. Whether you love this version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, or hate it, or feel something in between, it reminds us that art, even when it's trying to sell us something, can still make us think, feel, and question the world around us.
That's a great way to put it. It encourages us to look deeper, to find meaning in unexpected places, and to remember that even a story as familiar as The Grinch can still teach us new things.
So there you have it, our deep dive into the 2000 How the Grinch Stole Christmas movie, a film that's visually amazing, hilariously chaotic, and surprisingly thought-provoking. A film that reminds us that even a heart 2 sizes too small can grow and change, and maybe even inspire us to do the same.
And as we get ready for the holidays this year, it's worth asking ourselves, are we letting all the shopping and stuff overshadow the real meaning of giving? Are we like the Grinch in the end, finding our hearts growing a little bit, embracing the joy and connection that make this time of year so special.
That's something to think about as we put away our decorations. Maybe we'll even find ourselves approaching the holidays with a little bit of that Grinch-like introspection. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.